The criminalisation of art. Does rap actually cause violence? Let's begin by considering a stark paradox from 2018. In the UK, British rapper Digga D was served a court order demanding he submit all his lyrics to police for approval before release. This order banned violent metaphors and mandated blurred faces in his music videos. Yet across the Atlantic, Edgar Wright releases Baby Driver, an action thriller movie about a getaway driver for a heist crew, packed with violence. Yet, one artist faced state censorship, his creative freedom curtailed. The other received nominations for the 90th Academy Awards 2018. So, how do we reconcile these two realities? This isn't an isolated incident. In the US, over 700 criminal cases since the 1980s have used rap lyrics as evidence. Yet, when Martin Scorsese brings organized crime to the screen with intricate violence, or Bret Easton Ellis pens graphic murders, is categorized as cinematic genius or literary transgression. The public separates its content from reality, realizing it as fiction. But for hip-hop, that same content, when created by a black artist, often transforms from art into incriminating evidence. This selective criminalization of hip-hop isn't inconsistent either. It reveals a profound racial bias operating through cultural double standards, where the very same narrative content is deemed either art or evidence depending on who creates it. It forces us to reflect on the lens through which we view different forms of expression. The global war on hip-hop. Consider the UK's crackdown on drill music. It represents one of the most aggressive censorship campaigns in modern music history. Under drill music prohibition orders, artists are compelled to submit lyrics to units like the Metropolitan Police's Gangs Violence Matrix for vetting. Songs can be preemptively banned based on the subjective potential to incite violence. Even producers face prosecution if their beats are used in problematic songs. This system has no equivalent. While drill artists navigate these severe restrictions, shows like Peaky Blinders, which romanticizes post-World War I gang violence, often in brutal detail, receive government tax incentives as culturally significant British media. What does this tell us about what we deem acceptable and for whom? What are the definitions of violence that serve to crack down on rap, yet avoid other forms of art in music, TV, and books? Digga D's 2018 conviction resulted in a criminal behavior order requiring him to change his lyrics. He's subjected to a screening of his music content. Now, Trainspotting, a seminal British film, featured graphic heroin use, addiction, and the brutal realities of that life. Yet, one is policed and the other is seen as a cultural icon. This disparity is a symptom of a deeper prejudice. What allows one form of violent or gritty realism to be celebrated as art, while another is criminalized? In the US system, while decentralized, is equally insidious. Notably, labeling the lyrics as rap rather than country or heavy metal also affected assumptions about the songwriters. Let's look at some of these cases. Mac Phipps in the 2000s. The Louisiana rapper served 21 years after prosecutors grotesquely misrepresented his battle rap lyrics as a literal murder confession. Draco the Ruler in 2020. Daryl Caldwell spent 3 years fighting a RICO Act case in Los Angeles, where his lyrics were the central evidence of gang conspiracy. He was acquitted of those charges, yet his life was irrevocably disrupted. And Young Thug, Jeffrey Williams, was on trial in Georgia, facing RICO charges where prosecutors are using lyrics, some written when he was a teenager, as proof of gang conspiracy. But Johnny Cash, the country singer, performed Folsom Prison Blues and sang, "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die." No prosecutor ever questioned his literal intent. No court ever considered his songs as evidence. So what does this tell us about who is afforded the luxury of artistic license and who is not? Society has developed remarkably sophisticated interpretive frameworks for white-authored violence. When we watch The Godfather, we analyze it as a complex family tragedy exploring power. When we read American Psycho, it's a satire of yuppie culture. When we listen to Guns N' Roses sing Used to Love Her, it's often dismissed as shock humor or controversial rock lyricism pushing boundaries. Yet, when Kendrick Lamar, a Pulitzer Prize winner, crafts a song like Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, where gunshots interrupt a character's verse, alluding to their death, the likelihood of that being associated with violence and gang culture is much higher. This reductionist view dismisses the profound artistic and narrative elements, the gunshot as a device illustrating the fragility of life, the baptism ending symbolizing spiritual redemption, the powerful critique of trauma exploitation. We have to ask ourselves, why do we extend such interpretive grace to one group of artists but deny it to another? But what about the consumability of songs versus movies and books? This argument often surfaces that rap is uniquely dangerous because it's easily consumed by impressionable youth, uniquely capable of inciting violence. But let's pause and consider this claim in a broader context. Think about the viral violence in other media. The 2019 Joker movie sparked moral panics and clips circulated widely, yet no calls were made to censor the film. Or Sigma male edits from Fight Club glorify violence without context, but the film remains a cultural touchstone. Games are also subject to the unfair potential cause of violence, though its creators and consumers aren't merely one group of people, as is hip hop, and this isn't new. In the 1950s, the advent of radio sparked fears it would spread jazz, often associated with black culture, as morally corrupting. In the 1980s, typical worn cassette tapes made explicit lyrics unavoidable, leading to parental advisory labels. The overall theme isn't the medium itself, nor is it the inherent dangerousness of the content. It's consistently about whose expression we deem inherently corrupting. This historical pattern forces us to confront a recurring fear, almost always directed at artistic forms popular within marginalized communities, particularly black communities. So, what does it say about our society when we continually find reasons to fear and control the art of certain groups? Let's look at how the issue of lyric criminalization is deeply woven into the fabric of the prison industrial complex. Private prison corporations, along with other entities profiting from mass incarceration, actively lobby for policies that increase incarceration rates, like three-strike laws and mandatory minimums. They also push to expand prosecutorial tools such as RICO laws and gang enhancements, which can be easily weaponized using vague associations or artistic expression. If we look at Louisiana, Angola prison, a former slave plantation, generates millions annually via inmate labor. This creates a perverse economic incentive for maintaining high incarceration rates. This reflects how the system targets and profits from communities already struggling with systemic disadvantages, transforming their narratives into commodities for conviction. How can justice truly be served when there's a clear interest in expanding the pool of potential inmates? Now, what of the role of the major labels within the music industry? While they profit immensely from the commercial success of hip hop, they often market rap artists as embodying authentic street documentation, profiting from the very narratives that later become ammunition for prosecutors. Crucially, they often abandon artists when legal trouble arises, failing to provide substantial legal or financial support, even as they continue to profit from the artist's existing catalogs. In 1992, Interscope promoted gangster rap, profiting from its edginess, while executives largely remained shielded from the backlash. In 2016, Epic Records dropped Bobby Shmurda mid-trial, but continued to sell his music throughout his 7-year incarceration. In 2022, Young Thug's label released his album Business is Business while he was incarcerated and on trial, with proceeds still flowing to the label. This pattern leads to the question of whether the industry is truly a partner to these artists or a machine that profits from their art and often their struggles, abandoning them when they need support the most. Despite all these challenges, There is a growing recognition of this injustice, leading to crucial legislative reforms. California's AB 2799 Act, the Decriminalizing Artistic Expression Act, now requires prosecutors to prove the literal intent and direct relevance of lyrics before they can be admitted as evidence. There's a similar one, the Rap Music on Trial Bill, similarly limits the prosecutorial use of artistic expression, demanding a high evidentiary standard. In the UK, groups like the Black Music Coalition lobby against drug prohibitions, pushing for policy changes to protect freedom of expression. These reforms are not just legal changes, they reflect a growing public and legislative awareness of this form of censorship. Beyond legislation, educational initiatives are vital for shifting perceptions and fostering a deeper understanding of hip hop as a legitimate art form. Michael Ford's curriculum uses rap lyrics to teach design and urban planning, showcasing the genre's intellectual depth. Finally, grassroots and community-led initiatives are crucial in defending artists and raising awareness, like the Rap on Trial awareness. Campaigns encourage court watch programs where volunteers monitor lyric cases to ensure fairness, or artistic legal defense funds where high-profile artists like Snoop Dogg sponsor legal defense for artists like Draco the Ruler, providing crucial financial support. So when prosecutors enter lyrics into evidence, it's rarely about protecting public safety in a meaningful way. It's about criminalizing autobiography. It's about a system that redlines neighborhoods, underfunds schools, and profits from prisons, now demanding that black artists sanitize their lived experiences. It forces us to confront a profound hypocrisy, a system that celebrates violence in one artistic form while condemning it in another, purely based on who's creating it. But history offers a lesson. Censored art always outlasts its censors, from NWA struggles to drill's global spread despite bans. Truth always has a way of being heard. As James Baldwin warned, people who shut their eyes to reality simply invite their own destruction.